Hey, everybody. Welcome to MFSN The Hub. It is the Thursday after Independence Day. We weren't with you on Tuesday because we were celebrating the birth of America. Ross, you're always with me. I miss you. How you doing?
Ross the Boss here from La La Land, Los Angeles, California. And yes, we had an unbelievable not New Year's, July 4th. It felt like New Year's with the firecrackers. I mean, it was like a war zone in my neighborhood on the 4th. It was like unbelievable. Was it quiet where you lived, or was it like a war zone?
It was pretty loud. My dog was not a happy camper. She doesn't like the noise of the fireworks, so she was barking and running around and hiding. So
Yeah, me too. I have one dog that went crazy. I had to put him in a crate, and the other one was fine. So there you go.
nice.
But
Well,
it's
I'm
been a
glad you
lot
had a
of
good
baseball.
holiday.
We're more than halfway through the season, which seems it's crazy how quick it goes.
I know, and
I
All-Star break
remember
is next
April,
week.
I remember April. You and I were cutting all our players, and now it's already July, and we're trying to get those players back.
Yeah,
So
some of the
it's
ones you cut are on my waiver wire list this week. So
I'm sure
that'll
they
be fun to
are.
see. That'll be, yeah, I have some regrets too. Maybe that's kind of something we should look at today. But since we weren't here on Tuesday, obviously there's only 4 days left of games. I think the last games were on
4 days,
Sunday.
and then we got All-Star break, and then
Yeah.
we have like a short week of games coming up. So it's kind of a catch-up week, which I like to call it,
Yeah,
because
we get a little break. We get to watch some of the festivities of the All-Star game. That's always fun. But
I
let's
think the
talk
only
about,
day when there's like no sports on is like the day after All-Star game. Am I correct? There's like, I think it's the ESPYs, correct? And then there's like nothing on. Like the only thing you can watch is like minor league baseball or like European soccer, and that's it.
yeah, which
Um,
I don't mind although now the European soccer isn't even really playing because they were doing international duty. The season doesn't start here for few weeks. But the Women's World Cup is coming up in soccer. That's something that'll be fun to watch too. I know,
you
right? Well,
said Women's World
you're
Cup. I
not a
just fell
cultured
asleep. I
sports
fall
fan.
asleep when I hear
You're
those
just
words. I
not a
don't know what it
cultured
is.
sports fan. It's fine.
It's a trigger. It's a trigger. You say women's soccer, I fall asleep. I don't know why.
Well, you'll learn to appreciate it. It's going to take over America one day. Okay, so let's talk about the waiver wire coming up. It's been about a week and a half since we talked
Yeah.
about it. Um, Instead of going position by position, why don't you give me 3 or 4 of the top hitters you have that you're looking at this week?
So Garrett Cooper of the Marlins. I mean, the Marlins, first of all, is a playoff team, so there's no more laughing stock of the Marlins. Laughing stock's actually one of my fantasy football names for my team. Garrett Cooper sounds like a old time movie star, doesn't he?
I think he
Garrett Cooper.
was. Oh no, that was Gary Cooper.
Gary Cooper. Come on, Casey, wake up.
Try to be
403 home runs, 12 RBIs the past 2 weeks, and the Marlins are like playing great. I mean, I think they're like 7 for the last 10. They have wins, and their pitching staff. I love their pitching staff, and the pitch. Garrett Cooper, I love a lot.
They're an exciting team right now.
I mean, he's hitting the ball like a madman. And then the new guy for the Pittsburgh, Henry Davis, gets no PR because he plays in Pittsburgh, but he is hitting 327 and has 2 stolen bases for the past 2 weeks. And he's eligible for catcher and outfield, but catcher is the most important part because not many catchers can steal bases like he can. So those are my 2 big pickups that are under 60% that I like a lot this week.
Yeah.
Who could you? I have a few others, but I'll let you go now. I'm afraid I might take one of your picks.
Well, I don't. Oh, we have a question first before I get into mine. Chris Atwater asked, "Do you believe Luke Raley can keep this production up?"
I saw him hit a home run yesterday. I mean, that guy's a player. I mean, he really is. Tampa Bay's coming back down to earth. They're not this unbelievable team we saw in April. They're losing games. They're not this mega team we all think they are. They'll make the playoffs. They'll probably win the East. We'll see how far they go in the playoffs. Beware of Texas. That's all I got to say. Beware of Texas and Houston, even Houston, because they'll get healthy too, and they're really good. But Tampa Bay, I like Luke a lot. Yes, I would keep him playing. Just make sure he plays every day. Because
Luke Raley is a good player. I think, the one thing Tampa Bay does really well is also one of the things that makes it hard to be successful as a fantasy player with their team is they mix and match their lineups really well. So they understand to put their players in the positions to succeed, which is why they keep succeeding. But it means Luke Raley is going to be a 60 or 70% of the time type of player, as opposed to somebody who plays every day. So if you're in a weekly league, I don't think you can really roster Luke Raley or plug him in your lineup and hope he plays every game. But in a daily league, if you have a deep enough bench, absolutely he would be a pickup. And he's somebody I have actually on my list.
Luke, use the force, Luke. What movie is that from? Quick.
Oh, I don't know.
See, I stumped him already, everybody. He didn't even know the easy. I'm just kidding. Of course he knows it.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of
I know.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. Okay, and
I know you
Alec
are.
Guinness. I'm going to name an Arizona State guy for you. How's that? I'm
Oh,
gonna go
great.
with
I can't wait for
baseman,
this.
Detroit
Spencer?
Tigers, Spencer Torkelson.
Yep. First pick in the draft a
He
few
was
years
the first
ago.
pick of the draft, came up with all this fanfare.
Yep.
Sort of flamed out really badly, as most of Detroit has. I think he's just been put in a bad situation, but he's starting to figure it out. In the last week alone, he's batting over 300 with 3 home runs, 7 RBIs. This is a guy who we know it's not a question of talent. He's had it his whole life. It's a question of, is he starting to figure it out? It might have taken him a couple years. I like him. I don't know if I definitely pick him up, but I would definitely keep watching him. And because if you have a hole at first base, if you've been relying on a Jose Abreu, somebody like that, or Rowdy Tellez, these guys who haven't produced, you can do worse. And then
I like Spencer a lot. You know, they won today 9-0 against the A's. I know it's the A's, but they did win. Do you think it's a question I'm just going to throw out there? Do you think Spencer is on the trading block just because he has a lot of potential? His ceiling's really high, and the Tigers aren't going anywhere. Well, do you think he could be traded?
I don't believe he'd be traded, but I think, if you're the Tigers and somebody's willing to give you an impressive package of players, minor leaguers and draft picks, or minor leaguers and MLB ready players, then you have to listen, just because you need so much. I think he'd be tradable if they offered to take Javi Baez with him to get him off their books.
Oh, yeah, they're paying that guy a fortune.
Because they're paying him a fortune, and he's just not.
He's probably one of the biggest busts in contract history.
Well, and look, if you watched him in Chicago, you knew he was a completely streaky player, hot and cold. And then he went to New York and he was the same thing. Why? I think Detroit just thought his big name would get butts in the seats. I don't know why they would give him that big of a contract when you're not in a position to compete. But
it's funny, every Dominican that was coming up, like in the past 5 years, their favorite player is Javi Baez. They would interview the guy and they would say, who is your idol growing up?
Javi Baez. Fun to watch in the field.
Javi Baez. And then like Wander Franco, his favorite player is Javi Baez. And it's just like, he's not the Javi Baez that we all saw like 6-7 years ago. I mean, this guy
is not the shortstop who came up with all the flair.
No, not even close. I don't know if it's injuries. I don't know if time just caught up to him. But back in the day when he was with the Cubs, he had some great streaks going on, Casey. I remember that very well. But he's not the same player, which is sad.
Another player I like, third baseman, shortstop, I talked about him last week, is Maikel Garcia in Kansas City. He's a rookie. Yeah. He gets forgotten in Kansas City because
they suck.
He's in Kansas City.
Kansas City sucks.
And he's not Bobby Witt. Bobby Witt will get names. But Garcia has been doing nothing but producing. And even in the last week, he's batting .481, 13 for 27, 6 runs scored, a home run, 2 stolen bases. He's got power, enough pop to be relevant, and a lot of speed. He's only 48% owned. That's somebody who's got to be rostered in every league, I think.
Yeah, Kansas City's just pathetic. I really don't want to. They traded away Chapman last week to the Rangers, which is a great move for Texas because Chapman
now who's my top pickup in pitching this week.
Yeah, Chapman was like on everybody's list. He's back. He's throwing that fastball. Chris Atwater, who was actually at my wedding, and we had to carry him out of the wedding because he got so drunk. I don't know if he remembers that, but Chris Atwater's a big Alabama fan. What questions does he have?
No, he just wanted to point out that Baez had a great game today.
They won 9-0. I mean, my little league team can beat the A's.
Everybody talks about somebody having a great game. I always bring back like every hard-hitting Mark Whitten, who hit like 4 home runs in one game to start a season, and all of a sudden he was like the #1 pick in everybody's draft, and then he went on to do absolutely nothing. Or was
That's
it Tuffy
funny.
Rhodes? No, it was
That was
Tuffy
great.
Rhodes. Tuffy
That's a
Rhodes
good
for the
callback. I
Cubs.
like that.
Opening day, 4 home runs. Everybody's like, he's a must draft. And then I think he only hit 8 for the whole season.
And then we all pick him and we all wave him like in 2 weeks.
Right.
I remember that very well.
Yes, Baez had a good game today. Even
Baez did, but again, they played the A's.
Right,
there was a certain Yankee that got a perfect game against the A's, and I told Cooperstown that shouldn't count anyway because the A's are not really a Major League Baseball team, but no one listened to me.
That's a little harsh, but I get it. You're not wrong. I don't know if it counts, but you're not wrong.
It counts, but I don't want it to count. I'm on a committee that says no.
Any other batters you can think of?
Yeah, I mean, Brandon Donovan of the St. Louis Cardinals, as you know, as I despise the Cardinals. I love when they lose. But Donovan, the past 2 weeks, is hitting .407 with 2 home runs, and he's like Mr. Utility. He can play like 5 different positions, I think. I mean, he's just all over the board. So, again, St. Louis, I hope they don't heat up, but I have a feeling they'll have a pretty good July and pretty good August. There's just too much talent on that team to lose every game. So I like Brandon Donovan for St. Louis for that reason of utility and hitting over 400. Tony Kemp of the A's. I know I'm saying the A's, but the A's are playing a lot better. I mean, they've been winning games lately. I know they lost today, but in the past they've been winning. Tony Kemp, I know past 2 weeks, I know 267. You're saying, Ross, why do you like him so much? Casey Scheinfeld, 5 stolen bases. Yeah. 5 stolen bases in the past 2 weeks.
4 in the past week. So
4 in the past week. So Tony Kemp, I know he plays for the A's. Don't get mad at me, but again, if you need stolen bases, and that's a tough category still, even with the bigger bases and the pitch clock and the amount of times you can throw the first base, I don't think that matters. But again, Tony Kemp, if you need some stolen bases quickly on your category list.
Chris Atwater wants to mention a favorite of yours on these waiver wire shows. He said, "What about J.D. Davis?"
I've been saying his name for the past like 6 weeks, right, Casey? I mean,
or years.
I mean, I kind of like, he kind of died down a little bit. He's coming back to earth. I still like him, but again, I try to move on after I say a name so many times. What's his percentage now? What's he up to?
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to look.
I mean, I saw a lot of guys that we've been chirping about are like way over 60% now. I mean, it's like
J.D. Davis is still at only 49%. Still 282 on the season with 36 runs, 10 homers, 45 RBIs. So Chris, he's producing. I mean,
he's definitely moving up. And when we start talking about him, he was like at 10%. So he moved up.
Third base eligibility, that's a shallow position. Somebody else I want to mention is 2 catchers. I'll give you names of just because catchers are important too, right? We got,
of course.
Yainer Diaz, who's been hot as fire for.
Oh my God, he had 2 home runs the other night. It was great.
This past week, he's been producing. He's going to get playing time there. And then Francisco Alvarez, he's not hitting for a lot of average, but he's getting the at bats. He's heating up again this week. He was really miserable the week before, but 3 home runs in the week. Again, you're not going to find necessarily somebody off the waiver wire who is going to win you the league at this point, but you're looking for guys who can. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention kind of my favorite minor league prospect for most of the season. I've been banging the drum for him for a long time, and that's
Colton De La Cruz.
Yeah, right. I know he's been the best.
Wait, let's talk about Ellie De Cruz real quick. I want to bring what happened yesterday because I watched it live. So he got a base hit, and the manager for I was going to say Montreal. Isn't it funny? Washington. The manager for the Washington Nationals, Dave Martinez, said he wants to see the bat. He told the ump, "I want to see the bat. I want to see the bat." So the ump looked at the bat, nothing. And De La Cruz wasn't happy about it. Even though he's a rookie, this guy is a phenom. His next at bat, he hit home run about 400 feet. And De La Cruz when he went on the bases, he was yelling at Martinez saying, "Do you still want to see my bat?" Because he was not happy about he's been hitting like that all through the minors. I mean, it's not like all of a sudden he's up and he's hitting the ball like that. He's been doing this his whole life, and it's not steroids either. If he's on steroids, then he's taking the wrong pill because he's not built like Canseco or McGuire, not even close. I mean, this guy, this guy's a string bean. He's 6'7", and he probably weighs 180 pounds with, after he goes in water. So, I mean, there's no way like any bat would have any substance in it like corked or anything. but it was I guess you guys got to watch the tape and just Google it. You can watch it. It was unbelievable. A manager would do that to another player, but there you go.
Uncle Ted, what up? Welcome to the show. He wants you to pick up Travis Jankowski on Texas. Obviously, it's not a bad idea to pick up any part of the Texas lineup these days. They're pretty awesome. Although I still like Leody Taveras a lot.
Taveras has been killing it. I mean, that guy's on fire.
He's at 58%, so he might be. But Jankowski had some good years in San Diego before this, so he has done it before. We'll see if he can keep it up, but certainly any piece of that Texas lineup. I'm surprised you didn't mention Tommy Pham. Come on,
Tommy Pham. He's still hitting over 300 the past 2 weeks. He's looking good.
He's your guy. I was waiting
Tommy
for you to
Pham. Tommy Pham. Dun, 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 dun. He's still hitting over 300 the past 2 weeks. He's playing great.
Yeah, but no doubt.
But I just can't. I just the Mets are so mediocre, and they're such like them. I mean, they are one of the teams that was favored to win the National League, and they'll be lucky to finish 500. That's how.
Well, yeah. Cohen tried to buy a championship, and he proved a better hedge fund manager than baseball team owner, I think. So,
biggest bust in 2023, the San Diego Padres
or the St. Louis Cardinals.
St. Louis, but they're only I guess maybe.
Yeah, but they're playing against the National League Central, which is supposed to be the weakest division in baseball, and they're getting smoked. So he wants to point out that Jankowski is batting .325 with 10 steals. He is putting up the numbers. You're right. I'm not denying that. Give me a pitcher you like, Ross.
You know who's pitching great is Tanner Bibee of the. I hate saying it for the Cleveland Guardians.
Tanner Bibee. Yep, I have
Bibee. It's what Dr. Dan Ratner is a big Cleveland fan, so I hate giving him a compliment, but I'm going to. Tanner 2-0 the past 2 weeks. ERA .77. Young gun. I mean, one of these young guns that they have. They also have Williams, also that they brought up, who can throw. But Tanner, I like a lot. Also, Ryan Nelson for the Arizona Diamondbacks started out a little shaky. Past 2 weeks, he's like 2-0 with an ERA of 1.20. He's been pitching great the past couple of weeks. And then another pitcher I like pitches from Milwaukee is Colin Ray, 2-0 with a 2.88 ERA the past 2 weeks. Yeah. He's been solid. These guys started out a little shaky, but they found their groove and they're pitching great. And they look unbelievable.
We touched on him earlier. Aroldis Chapman was traded to the Rangers to be their closer. I think that makes him.
Is he going to be their closer? It's not Will Smith anymore. It's going to be Chapman, huh?
I think it's going to be Chapman within a short period of time if he's not
already.
I agree.
Will Smith threw a game a few days ago too.
6 innings, 11 strikeouts, a .17 WHIP with a 0 ERA. That's pretty impressive. The other relief pitcher you can pick up if you want is Hunter Harvey. He's closing for Washington, 4 saves in the last 2 weeks, a 0 ERA, over a strikeout per inning.
Hunter Harvey, I got to remember him. I did not know.
One of the guys that Ross was hot on in the preseason, drafted him, then dropped him, and his last outing was pretty good, but it's only a matter of time before he's hurt again. Is Jack Flaherty in St. Louis? He pitched pretty well this week when he came back through 6 innings of shutout ball. I don't know. I'm always enamored with the guys who've done it before and they're still young, but he's one I still don't trust completely.
He pitches today, and he's going to get hammered tonight
against Miami.
Against the Marlins, are just going to hammer him.
Kenta, 2 guys who've come back from injury. Kenta Maeda in Minnesota, since he's been back the last 2 weeks, 17 innings, 21 strikeouts, 2 wins, less than a 1 WHIP, less than a 1.6 ERA. He's tearing it up for the Twins right now.
He looked good yesterday. I watched him pitch. He looked good.
And then Tarek Skubal in Detroit, another Detroit Tiger. This guy's he's a good pitcher. He was hurt to start the year. He's only at 45%. If he's available in your league, I think you can get him. I think you can rely on him to get you some good peripherals and good numbers. He's a good young pitcher.
Your boy Eduardo Rodriguez pitched for the Tigers yesterday, back from his injury stint. He kind of got rocked a little bit, gave up a bunch of runs, but he did get a bunch of strikeouts. So first start back, didn't look that great, but I think he'll be on the trading block. He won't be a Tiger next week. Hopefully the Reds will pick him up. That'd be great.
Chris Atwater wants to know if you think the Padres can rebound. He said they have so much talent. So, in your opinion, what's wrong with them?
It's a synergy. It's they don't have the right team. They're not producing. Soto's the only one that's hitting. Machado's coming around a little bit. Tatis is hitting. Tatis is hitting too. But the rest of that team, I mean, they're not hitting the ball, and they're pitching. I mean, very mediocre is best. I mean, they're not the starters. Musgrove is getting rocked. I do have to admit, Snell is looking good. He's the only one I would say that's
Darvish
consistent.
is hurt.
Darvish is up and down.
No, he was sick and he's not pitching great.
Yeah, he's up and down. But overall, it's just you can't. It's just not about spending millions of dollars. It's about getting the right players at the right time and bringing in young players. You want to bring in the youth movement. You want to bring in young studs that are getting paid league minimum, that want to prove themselves, that want to play because they know if they start producing and hitting the ball or pitching the ball, they'll get that big contract. When guys make this kind of money, they're smoking cigars and drinking beer every night. They don't care.
How's this for bold? Uncle Ted says the Padres are going to trade Snell, Soto, and Hader to the Rangers. Imagine that super team.
Soto's contract's huge.
But it's over at the end of the year, isn't it? He wasn't signed to he hasn't.
It wasn't the big 5-year, $200 million deal. It wasn't one of those deals. I love Snell. I mean, I don't know if all three of them will go to the Rangers. If they do,
they'd have to give up a ton.
I mean, I don't know what the Rangers will give away. The Rangers have a great nucleus. I think they have the rookie of the year at third base. If I had to say it right now, it's Jung at third base is rookie of the year for the American League, and Carroll in the National League.
Although your boy Ellie is
he just hasn't
putting pressure.
This doesn't have the stats yet. This doesn't have the this Carroll has. He's probably be a 30-30 guy, Carroll, this year at least. But if De La Cruz started at the beginning of the year, he would have been close. I agree
100%. So, all right, Jose Alvarado, to you, is he worth keeping at this point?
I don't know how big your league is. You mentioned a couple other Harvey. Alvarado. I probably would not keep him unless the league didn't have any good relief pitchers. But I'm not a big fan of Jose Alvarado, so I would cut him. No, he's not worth keeping.
I mean, Jose Alvarado was the best pitcher on the Phillies when he got hurt.
Yeah, the word
was the closer when he got hurt. Unfortunately, Kimbrel has taken the job. And done fairly well. Now, Kimbrel, as we all know, if anybody's watched him for the past 5 years of his career, is liable to forget how to throw a strike at any point now, and Alvarado could get the job back. Alvarado's pitching well, even once he's come back. He's pitching in some high leverage situations. He's just not getting the saves. So if you have room on your bench, or if you have room in your lineup for a relief pitcher who's not getting saves and is just giving you good peripherals, I would hang on to him personally, because I think at some point he's going to get that closer's job back. I just don't trust Kimbrel to keep pitching this way through the year. But Uncle Ted wants to point out that Matt Manning has come back and pitched awesome, and might be a must add. Manning is, as I think he's the guy he's Detroit also, right? I think.
Remember Rick Manning? He was an outfielder for Detroit.
He's been pitching well since he's come back from injury.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about great. That's a word I would not use for Matt Manning. I mean, he's been okay at times.
I still remember him when he was a rookie. They did this when ESPN was going around doing their preseason stuff. Like, Manning was this rookie who lived out of his car at the spring training complex or out of his van, and that's all he ever wanted to do. He was always a unique dude. Hopefully he's figured it out. He was their first round pick several years ago. So they saw something from him. So there you go. Anybody else that we should mention today?
I gave you guys all my. I mean, the only other guy that I had, just because he's hitting 408 the past 2 weeks and he's a catcher, is William Contreras, and he's for some reason he's like under 40% now. I don't know why, but he's starting to hit. And if you need a catcher right now, he's not a bad pickup just because he's hitting way over expectations right now, and he's a streaker. So pick him up now and then drop him in 2 weeks.
And drop him in 2 weeks. Always the optimist. Some guys we always mention, Ezekiel Tovar is still doing well, shortstop in Colorado.
Yeah, he's doing great. I mean, he's like
Aaron Duran, outfielder in Boston, has figured it out again. He's been putting up great numbers.
He's a streaker. And another shortstop I like is J.P. Crawford. He's the past 2 weeks, Casey, 333, 3 home runs at the shortstop position. That's not bad.
So let's talk a little strategy for a few minutes. Assuming, we've given you enough players to pick up. Midpoint of the season, really only 2 full months left of the fantasy baseball season, because fantasy baseball usually ends sometime in September. How far out do you have to be to kind of consider rebuild? Let's do it's a long-term league, not a redraft league, because it doesn't matter if you sell. But if you're in a keeper league or a dynasty league, at what point do you give up on the year? How far out do you have to be before you start trading some of your value targets to try to strengthen yourself for the next year?
Well, if there's let's say it's a 12, I'm just being like throwing a situation out, 12 teams. And if you're not in the top 8, I would say it's time to sell. Try to get some youth. Try to get some players that are on their way up. Obviously, if you're on the bottom 4 teams, 6 teams make the playoffs. I would say if you're in the top 8, I would definitely try to build your team so you're ready for the playoffs. Because during playoffs, it doesn't really matter where you finish during the regular season. It just matters how you do during the playoffs. And it's I would say it's like 40% luck too. And not if your players are
injuries
playing well, injuries, but there's a lot of stuff you got to strategize a little bit. But long story short, if you're in the bottom 4, I would, especially if you're in your keeper league or in a dynasty league, I would focus on next year.
Yeah, I kind of look at it like if it's not a playoffs league, like if it's a standard rotisserie where there's no playoffs, it's just
no playoffs. Okay.
I would assume like in one league, I'm about 30 points out at this point.
Yeah.
And I have Mike Trout, who's long-term injured. I have, I'm in some positions where I'm in a rough spot. Those are ones where I might look to package some of my players and try to upgrade at keeper positions for the next year. But I hate giving up, right? It's that whole.
You have the mentality, you got the mentality of just never give up. And
Uncle Ted says you're never out in baseball. I could win with any roster right now from just the waiver wire ads. Uncle Ted, I admire your confidence, man, and I am not going to doubt you. But if you're in some of these large leagues and you're way out, I don't know if you could win.
I don't know if being in a 14-team league and you can just move off waiver wire. I don't think that's possible.
Maybe the larger leagues you could if you're good with the waiver wires, because that's when everybody's team has holes. But it's got to be tough. But,
I don't think so. But
so when we're looking at trades, let's say you're in a position where you don't think you're going to compete for the championship this year. Who are
is
you
it a dynasty or
you sent me a really intriguing trade offer.
Yeah, let's talk about it. I want to see what people think about it. Why do you tell the audience about it?
I was actually ready to accept it, and you pulled it. I got offered by
2 days. I was sleeping, and I was worried that one of the guys would go down on injury. So
24 hours. But Ross texted me, sent me a trade offer. He wanted Bryce Harper, and everybody's favorite Cincinnati Red these days, Andrew Abbott, who's been just
he's on fire. I mean, the guy's pitching great.
But and so those are 2 big names. Bryce Harper's been a disappointment, but you and I have spoken, and I believe Bryce Harper might be one of the best players in the
I think second half, I think Bryce Harper's going to rejuvenate himself.
Now he offered me Chris Bassett, who's not a keeper, but he's pitching well, and he's a really solid player to replace Andrew Abbott. I might lose that part of the trade, but he was offering me then Adolis Garcia, who has
second in the league in RBIs.
71 RBIs this year, and he's this power speed guy, and he's on one of the best offenses in baseball. It was really, really tempting. Um,
That's why I did it. I mean,
I
because I
know
thought it was fair.
brilliant. I nearly just tried to give you my whole team for Ellie De La Cruz, but I didn't think you would. You're going to get rid of your favorite red
I
right now.
don't have Ellie De La Cruz.
Oh, I thought you did in this league.
No, I have.
Oh, you have Jordan
I
Walker.
have Jordan Walker, and I have Nolan Jones of the Colorado are my two young guys,
Ah, okay.
and Gavin Williams too.
Okay. Yeah, Gavin Williams is a good one. But so when you're looking to trade at this point, are you looking to, if you're building for next year, are you willing to trade some of your core players if it can upgrade your core? So for example,
I'm always looking to, what it is, Casey, I'll be honest, especially in baseball. I won't say as much as in football because there's only 16, 17 games in a season. But in baseball, there's 162 games. And you kind of want to you just want to trade so you can root for new players. You know what I mean? I mean, that's like, I know it's like not the greatest philosophy. I know you don't want to hear it from me.
no,
But
it's not.
I'm just, I mean, I've Matt Olson. If somebody offered me something from Matt Olson, who's having an unbelievable year. I mean, the guy, RBIs and home runs, he's doing great. He plays for the best team in baseball, hands down. They probably have the best pitching and the best hitting in baseball. I mean, they're just stacked, Atlanta. I mean, they have 8 guys going to the All-Star game. I mean, that's unbelievable. It's just it's it reminds me of the Big Red Machine back in the 70s. All the All-Stars that they sent.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like it's just you just want to have a new guy, a new crop of guys. Not that many, but a few new ones to root for. You know what I mean? I mean, I was tired of looking at Garcia's stats all the time. And I do like Bassett. I think he's a great find. I think he's having a great year. But I'm a Reds fan. I wanted to pick up the hottest Reds starters, so that's why I was kind of excited to do it also.
Like for example, Trey Turner. Let's say one of the better teams in the league has Trey Turner right now, who's underperforming.
So first of all, let me just tell everybody, he's the biggest disappointment in fantasy baseball, hands down. He was the number 1 pick in many leagues. And this guy is hitting in the 240s, and I don't know even how many home runs he has. I don't think it's double digits.
He has 9 home runs, 18 steals.
Yeah. So he's 18 steals. So maybe that's a little positive there. But I mean, he's been a huge disappointment this year, Trey Turner. And can he turn it around? I don't know. I mean, he's somebody that I would not. First of all, when he was in LA, he was not well liked. No, he was not a nice guy.
Oh,
He
really?
would never sign autographs for kids. He would never hang out with players. It was all about baseball and business for him. And he treated it like a business, not like, he never really had fun here in Los Angeles. And then he signed that big deal with the Phillies. And I'm kind of happy he's not doing well. It's a guy I would never have on my team. But Trey Turner, I don't know if he can turn it around. I have no idea. I think he'll have 20 home runs and hit 250 and probably have 35 steals. That's what I think he'll do for the year. So there you go.
No, but I guess my question is, if he's on a contending team, is that somebody, if you're trading to a contender, is that the type of player you would target for next year?
If the owner will trade you for somebody has a lot better stats than him, let's say Jonathan India of the Reds, who has more home runs.
How about Shohei Ohtani, the batter version of Shohei Ohtani, right? Like, he's not. If you're a utility only batter,
right? But he's leading the league in home runs. I mean,
I know.
I'm just saying, his average isn't that great, but he can steal bases, he gets RBIs, and he's
like. Would you trade Adolis Garcia for Trey Turner? The package,
I would
Adolis
not.
Garcia,
No, absolutely
and a couple
not.
other things.
No, not a guy that plays for the Rangers, and we know what happens in Texas when it starts getting hot, the ball flies.
What about somebody like Luis Robert or
Luis Robert? I mean, wow! Did anybody know?
Ozzie
I mean,
Albies.
I just saw it that this guy has 25 home runs.
Oh yeah, he's crushing it.
I mean,
he's in the home run derby, isn't he?
I think he is. I want to say he is. Is he? I mean, he's just 25 home runs, and no one's talking about him. I mean, he's having the year that everybody thought he would have 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, Luis Robert, to me,
who's having a great year and nobody's talking about him is Christian Yelich.
Tell me.
Batting 286, 63 runs scored, 10 home runs, 20 stolen bases at the break, 42 RBIs.
Wow.
He's the
20 stolen
15th ranked
bases.
player in Yahoo. And this is a guy who 4 or 5 years ago was MVP. Then, COVID hit and they stopped allowing for video replay in the dugouts or whatever it was because of the cheating scandals. And this guy was atrocious for a few years. But now he's the 15th ranked player in fantasy at the break.
No, he had a great turnaround. Great guy. He's from Southern California. I've actually met him a few times. Nothing but good things to say about him. Gives back to the community. Does many charity events during the off season here in Los Angeles. But he is. I didn't know he's having such a great year. That's why you're telling me. I had no idea he was hitting.
Yeah,
so well.
But nobody talks about him because he's forgotten. Remember when he and Cody Bellinger that one year for the MVP race where both of them were just obnoxiously good, and then the next year they both like crapped the bed and they were lost.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like Luis Robert, I would say, is the biggest sleeper that no one talks about at all, just because the guy, is just he does everything. And the White Sox are horrible. I mean, the White Sox can't win.
Yeah,
another big disappointment. They play a doubleheader today. I bet they get swept.
They might, and Nick Castellanos has had a bounce back, and people aren't talking about him. 310. 51 runs scored, 55 RBIs, 13 home runs, and he's chipped in 6 stolen bases. This is a guy.
Yeah, I think that the Phillies are playing a lot better. I mean, they started out horribly, and now they're starting to win, and they're starting to figure it out, just like they did last season. They went on a huge run in August. I don't know if you remember August, September.
Yeah.
They made it to the World Series. So, I mean, the Phillies are a team that I would kind of like watch out for, but also cash in a little bit and see who else you can grab from that team to play. Like Bryce Harper, I think he's going to have a great bounce back second half.
One of your guys, 2 of your guys actually, Ketel Marte in Arizona has been awesome, and not people aren't talking about how good he's been at second base. And then Jonathan India in Cincinnati. Like, I know we talk about McLean, we talk about De La Cruz. We're hoping Christian Encarnacion Strand comes up. They've got the pitchers who've come up, Andrew Abbott amongst them. But India quietly has batted .255, which isn't great, but it's not horrible these days. 13 home runs, 12 stolen bases. So he's on a 25-25 pace with 64 runs scored and almost 50 RBIs.
Yeah, I think he's going to be on the trading block just because there's so many good infielders the Reds have.
Yeah, you keep saying that, but
I just think they need a starter. If we can get Eduardo Rodriguez from the Tigers, I mean, they got to make a big trade. They got to trade for.
Maybe they'll get Blake Snell. Maybe Uncle Ted was wrong with the Rangers, and maybe the Cincinnati.
I don't know if he fits in Cincinnati. I mean, I would love to have him, but I think they want guys under 25 years old because of monetary reasons. Snell's making a fortune.
Maybe they can get Alek Manoah, who, by the way, if he was dropped, pick him up. His last start, did you see his start at AA?
No, because it's AA.
I don't care.
He's pitching Friday against. Who's he pitch against? He pitches against.
Did you drop
Detroit?
him?
He pitches against Detroit.
That means you dropped him, didn't you?
I just didn't drop him. I waved him, and I was like, never again. No, I still think he's trash. I still don't think he's going to do well on Friday against the Tigers. He's going to get destroyed.
I don't know. I think he might have figured it out.
Yeah, one start in AA, he's already figured it out. It's like Uncle Ted, having one great game against a rookie league team, and then he figured it out. I mean, he didn't figure out anything. He's going to get rocked on Friday.
Uncle Ted has a question for you. Who was the last Reds pitcher to win a Cy Young?
You mean the only pitcher to ever win a Cy Young for the Reds? Is that the question? The only ever pitcher, and he pitches in Japan right now?
Yep, throwing 100-mile-per-hour gas in Japan.
And everybody in Japan hates the guy.
It's weird.
I mean, everybody hates him in Japan. And he's just not a good guy. And he was getting rocked before. All of a sudden, I forgot his name.
Trevor
Bauer, horrible person, and you just know every player on that Japanese team wants to kill him.
Uncle Ted said, "You win a Cy Young in Great American Small Park in 2020. Get Bauer to the Reds ASAP."
He's not pitching well in Japan. The Reds would never take a guy who's convicted. Well, he wasn't convicted. He was accused,
but it was dragged through
the mud.
Accused
of all this stuff, And Cincinnati's a very conservative town. As you know, I've been there a million times. My daughter goes to school out there, and there's no way the Reds would ever sign that guy. Never. Trevor Bauer enjoyed Japan. He's getting rocked.
Is he?
He was
I
last
haven't
month.
looked at his
Casey.
stats, so I don't know. I don't
I don't follow Japanese baseball. I'm sure Uncle Ted does, but again, he's not well liked in Japan. He's very quick. I think
he's come across like from his time in Cleveland, his time in Arizona, that he's not coachable. That he's
I mean, you saw the
locker room.
You saw the they did a piece on him on Inside Sports, the Brian Gumbel show on HBO, and he told a story how the UCLA baseball coach told the team, "Okay, take a lap around the stadium," and Trevor told the coach, he says, I don't do that. My dad tells me I shouldn't run before I pitch. And so it's like all of a sudden he doesn't listen to he doesn't listen to the coach.
Yeah.
He just listens to his dad, who's actually like a scientist, an actual scientist, and figured a way for him to pitch faster. And it worked. I mean, the kid's pitching in Major League Baseball with, and I don't think he was given that much talent, but his dad figured a way for him to throw the ball really fast, and it does work.
Man, Uncle Ted is not happy with you. Why you wouldn't want Trevor Bauer to pitch for the Reds is ludicrous. He's a superstar, Cy Young winning, healthy arm. Trevor is like, hold my Cy trophy.
It's not going to happen.
Uncle Ted is. Uncle Ted.
It's not going to happen in Cincinnati.
I think we're going to need to have a showdown here.
It's a very conservative town.
Low
and
pitch
they don't put up
softball
with that
home
stuff.
run hitting contest between Uncle Ted and Ross the Boss. I want to see it. I know Ross can hit. Uncle Ted, you see, I have a feeling you can hit too. So
Uncle Ted can hit. Uncle Ted can hit. But let's talk about Aaron Judge, because I have him on my fantasy team.
Is he coming back?
I mean, I was going to ask you. This is my prediction. Just tell me. I could be wrong, but I just want to say it on air. So you're saying, "Oh, you never said that." He came out a couple days ago saying he doesn't need surgery. It's okay. He's on his toe, and I broke my toe before, and it's the most painful thing I ever went through in my life. So I know what he's going through. But he actually is not having surgery, and he's walking around the locker room with a limp. Like he shows up to games. I mean, he's there.
He's there.
But he limps around, and there's nothing he really can do when you hurt your toe like that.
I think you just keep him out to
There's no rehab. There's no toe rehab. There's no such thing. So I say 2 weeks from now, the Yankees are going to say, we did what we could, but season-ending surgery for Aaron Judge, and we won't see him play the rest of the year. What do you say, Casey Schoenfeld?
Then I would be worried as a Yankees fan. Then
well, I think they're just horrible. They're not a good team. The good news is your boy Rodon is pitching on Friday.
I know.
I got good news for you there. Rodon is pitching
because we're going to be pitching to win if Judge doesn't come back.
But I mean,
you can't rely on anybody else.
Their lineup, Casey. I mean, they're not good. I mean, that's not a good team. I mean, Baltimore's better, Toronto's better. And I even think the Red Sox have a better lineup than the Yankees.
Yeah, it's not fun to watch.
It's sad, and you spend all that money, and that's the product you get out there.
Oh, man. So I don't know what to think. I'm not happy if Judge is out for the season, but
that's just my prediction. Uncle Ted may have another take. I don't know, but
Uncle Ted says Judge will be back right after the break. Whereas Christopher Atwater says ribs and toes are both tough to come back from.
I don't know if you guys remember the linebacker for the Steelers, who's the toughest guy I've ever met and watched play, Jack Lampert. And do you know why he retired, Casey? Do you know why he decided to hang it up? It wasn't because he was missing teeth or he broke every bone in his hand, and it had nothing to do with it. He had turf toe, and he couldn't play football anymore. Turf toe destroyed his career, and it was over. You're talking about one of the toughest guys to play football. I mean, this guy, animal. I mean, he was in on every tackle. I mean, this guy was just a complete animal, crazy man, linebacker back in the 70s, Super Bowl rings, everything else. but turf toe got him. I mean, it took his career
Uncle
away.
Ted, Uncle Ted pointed out that Deion Sanders retired because of turf toe too.
See, and now there's rumors that he may get his leg.
He might lose a
amputated.
leg. Yeah, the whole saga with him at Colorado was weird. I'm not
Kids all
exactly
transferring.
Sure.
I mean,
And he's trying to prevent them from it or whatever.
No, I saw the video of him saying like, all you guys are on tryout. You know, if you guys don't play well in spring, your guys are cut from the team. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, you're messing with kids' lives at that point. So.
Well, yeah, it's like they work so hard to get where they're at, and all of a sudden this guy's going to take it away. It's not that nice.
Well, Ross, another great show, man. Thank you. I appreciate you being here. You always offer the insight that nobody else can. Next week is the All-Star break, so enjoy the last few days of baseball we have coming up here this weekend. Next week, but we'll be back, even if baseball is doing their exhibitions. Maybe we'll do an exhibition. Ross will be live from the softball field using that sweet lefty stroke. I think it would be good for every time Pete Alonso swings, we see Ross hit one too. We'll try to do them simultaneously.
Yeah, I think my prediction for the home running contest, Julio Rodriguez, maybe just because of the hometown kid, and usually a hometown guy sometimes wins. I'm going to take, as much as I hate to say it, I'm going to take Mookie Betts to win the home run hitting contest. Casey, tell me who you like.
Ooh, oh my. In this one, I like. Well, I like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. just because.
There you go. I was waiting. I was going to correct you if you took anybody else.
I think you're going to find it. If I pick a shock the world, it's Adley Rutschman. I just think the Orioles are having that year. So.
Oh, he's a great hitter. I mean, that guy is. Remember he came up and the coach like brought him to his office and he filmed it like to tell him that he's going to play.
Yeah, I know. How cool was that?
That was. If you haven't seen that, folks, just Google that and watch it. It's so good. Stuff like that. It's just heart filling because you just know that it's genuine. I just loved it.
Yep. Well, everybody, thank you again for tuning in. As always, we love the help. Ted, your input, your questions, your interaction is always great.
Always great. Uncle Ted's always my favorite.
Ross and I, well, you're still mad that Chris was so drunk at your wedding.
He wasn't drunk at my wedding. We just say that because it was at Dr. Dan Ratner's wedding, and I was. He was.
And Dan takes us. I didn't get to meet him when I was there.
You didn't?
Long before fantasy baseball. Dan had a huge wedding with this big tent and everybody that nah.
God, I would have hated it. I would have hated it.
Next Tuesday, the 11th, Ross and I will be back at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific with some waiver wire ads to look at going into the All-Star break. And then hopefully on Thursday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific, we'll have Dr. Dan Ratner back to
I hope so. That guy,
of his adventures. But
that guy's like touring the world. It's unbelievable.
Enjoy your weekend. If you're on the East Coast, it looks like it might rain a bit, so stay dry. Although it's hot everywhere, so try to stay cool.